Welcome to a Friday night edition of Real Talk with Reverend Tammie. And tonight I have an amazing guest joining me, but I'll introduce him in a few moments. We're going to spend tonight talking about bone health. You know, I am a soon-to-be 16-year breast cancer survivor by the grace of God. 16 years. I mean, 16 years ago, my doctors didn't give me a very good outcome and outlook. They didn't think I was going to make it to even 5 years. And here I am 16 years later. The way I have made it to this point, of course, God first, an amazing medical team, a phenomenal tribe behind me, my family, my community, my church, my friends, and educating myself about the disease, about the treatments that are available out there, and what's going to be the best choice for me. And what we have done in the 14 years that Carrie's Touch has been around is we have made sure that we are providing education to you, to the community, to friends, to family members of breast cancer survivors. I entered a clinical trial, and part of the clinical trial was testing, estrogen levels, and I'm not going to get techie, but testing estrogen levels in premenopausal women. And as a result, they told us that I could have some issues with my bones later on. Well, 16 years later, I decided to go and have a bone scan. It's called a DEXA scan. And that scan looks at the strength and the health of my bones. And so tonight, we have Dr. Keith Crawford joining us. Now, let me tell you, this is a bad to the bone brother. This brother right here, his resume, I don't even know how to pronounce some of the words in his resume, but what I do know is that he is pretty amazing. So that I don't slight him on all of his street cred, that gives him permission to be here tonight to speak specifically to the issues related to breast cancer and bone health. I'm going to just read you a little bit about him. Dr. Keith Crawford has over 20 years in the life sciences and completed his graduate and postgraduate training at Harvard Medical School, where he developed competencies in the area of genomic, proteomics, immunology, microbiology, infectious disease, and regenerative medicine. During his postdoctoral training, Dr. Keith was selected by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. If you don't know about the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Google it. As a Harold Amos Fellow. Goes on, and he's done some incredible stuff. But one of the things I want to point out is that he was responsible for leading research efforts in the center, which gave rise to the discovery of a novel population of adult stem cells, early lineage adult. Dr. Keith and laboratory were responsible for the preclinical studies, which laid the foundation for the spinal fusion therapeutic. That's what I'm talking about right there. Somebody that's about it, going in, seeing an issue, addressing the issue, and making it better for everybody else. And I've read all of that about you, Dr. Keith, but what I love about Dr. Keith is when I ask him what flavor is red Kool-Aid, he said,
red.
Dr. Keith, welcome to Real Talk with Reverend Tammie. So the title in and of itself lets you know how tonight is gonna go down. We're gonna keep it real, it's gonna be raw, and we are going to help the people today on the Facebook. Welcome to Real Talk. Say hello to us.
I'd like to say hello to the audience. And I'd like to also say hello, Reverend Tammie.
Yes, sir.
My educational background pales to being around this strong Black woman with
Oh,
breast cancer, fighting the
well,
fight as well as educating. And
wow.
a point that I wanted to bring up is she recognizes knowledge is empowerment. And so she's out there making sure that everyone tonight is knowledgeable. And in that way, the more information you have, the better you can effectively communicate to your doctor.
You are an HBCU alum, and we know that you have just great background, good foundation, and you're going to talk to us tonight. So
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about bone health, right?
Right.
As it relates to Black women and breast cancer. And so when my doctors told me, about that, I might have issues with my bone, I just kind of poo-pooed it off. I didn't think much of it. I was like, okay, well.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why did you push it off?
I didn't think Black women could get osteoporosis or have issues with our bones.
Oh, so that's what you thought.
Yeah. So tell us, doctor, do Black people get osteoporosis?
Yes. Black people, Black men get osteoporosis.
Oh, wow.
So normally when you hear about osteoporosis or you see a commercial, rarely do you see a Black woman in that commercial.
Wow.
And so this is in a very important time. I mean, because we are indoors, there's not a lot of physical activity, and we're not in the sun. And the majority of people out there really do not take vitamin D supplements. As you get older, and especially when you reach a point where you're menopausal, then your bones start to weaken. Yes, white women may have a smaller frame and may have a higher incidence of osteoporosis, but Black women can get osteoporosis too.
Wow. I mean, doctor, well, hold on though. But you've said like a mouthful. You talked about, Black women, first of all, Black men get osteoporosis also. And you talked about the fact that we're not out in the sun that much. So we don't get enough vitamin D, but who tells you that you need to have enough vitamin D after you're a kid? I grew up saying, okay, drink milk so you can have vitamin D, and we had vitamin D milk. And I don't know when it was. When was it when all of a sudden vitamin D milk, whole milk, became an issue? So we stopped drinking vitamin D milk, right?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, but a large percentage, not even the fact that we move away from ingesting a lot of foods that have calcium in it, but a lot of folks become lactose intolerant.
Ooh.
A lot of Black folks become lactose intolerant as they get older. So now, again, you're not ingesting the appropriate foods and calcium to help reinforce your bones.
So good doctor, what are the best ways to get vitamin D into our systems?
Nutrition, exercise, and changing your lifestyle.
Okay. But let's break that down. You say nutrition, exercise, changing your lifestyle, right? Lifestyle.
Yeah. So if we're
that's so broad. Nutrition, plant-based only, pescatarian.
I said in this case, when we start talking about nutrition, I'm talking about a well-balanced diet, rich in calcium and vitamin D.
Okay.
Women 50 and younger, they should supplement with 1,000 milligrams of calcium a day.
Okay.
Women over 50, 120 milligrams a day.
Okay.
Vitamin D, what we have to take in consideration is, just look at it this way. People that have darker complexions do not absorb and convert sunlight into the appropriate nutrients for the body. So you need to supplement that. When the standards for nutrition were established, they were established for the Caucasian population. And so there are reports and studies that have come out of some of our historically Black colleges, like Howard University, that support the concept that African Americans, people of darker skin complexion, might need to take higher doses of vitamin D. So we're not talking about the 600 to 800 units that your doctor may suggest. You may have to be up to the 2,000 units a day. And especially those women who have moved into their estrogen levels are low,
Right.
or who may be survivors of breast cancer or a cancer that has metastasized to away from the breast tissue. So from the nutritional standpoint, calcium, vitamin D from a nutritional standpoint.
Right. And so let's just pause right there for a second, because we're going to talk about, COVID-19 and quarantine in a second, as just a whole nother element of just the foundational research that you've already done around breast cancer and bone health and osteoporosis, right?
Yeah, but see, we have to talk about some basic strategies.
Yeah.
To decrease or de-risk bone loss. Nutrition, we talked about that. Regular exercise is going to be important, because here's a good question. Are bones living or dead tissue?
They're living.
Okay. So if they're living, they need resistance, they need exercise, weight-bearing exercise, walking, climbing, walking the stairs, dancing. A lot of people may think that their bones are like their fingernails, or the ends of your fingernails. Are they alive?
No.
The ones in you, yeah. So you may think that's not the case. Bones are living tissue.
Yeah.
And you have to put weight on them. The more weight you put on it, the more stress you put on it, the stronger they get. And then that last component that we talked about, lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle. Did you know that smoking decreases your calcium?
I didn't. I don't smoke, but I didn't know.
Drinking alcohol, heavy drinking weakens your bones. So if you're a moderate drinker, for a woman, we're maybe one and a half, 2 drinks a day, preferably 1. That's moderate, and that's all right. But when you get to the heavy drinking component, that also interferes with your bone health.
So, I find it interesting that, because I've done, since we've been working together, I've done a lot of research, and there are some reputable resources out there that actually say that drinking up to 2 drinks a day is acceptable. And that was surprising to me, because I'm not a big drinker. I'm an occasional drinker. So, I just thought it was surprising that, 2 drinks a day is acceptable.
But everything goes back to what we were talking about before. We're talking about nutrition. So you have to maintain your nutrition. Calcium, just the type of food that you may have some calcium. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't supplement. And if you're not drinking milk, there's some other foods that may
Tell me,
you should think about.
What are those foods? What are those foods? What are some of those foods? What about kale? What about?
I mean, what I wanted, kale, that's a good example.
Collards?
Kale, that's what I'm talking about, some mustard greens. I said those mustard greens. You can do some mustard greens and some fortified cornbread, calcium fortified cornbread, if you won't get country.
Right. I love it.
So the point was some green leafy vegetables. Broccoli,
leafy.
Brussels sprouts, mustard greens, kale.
Right.
A lot of people are eating, Chinese cabbage, bok choy.
Right.
And as we move away, a lot of folks may not be eating chicken or red meat, and they may move to fish, even though I don't like it, sardines, but back in, salmon.
Right.
And with the bones, that's a good source. Shrimp.
Yeah.
And then if you're not ingesting your milk, there's also always your orange juices that could be calcium fortified. You
Mm-hmm.
know, breads and pizzas, nuts and almonds.
Right.
So
Right.
that's where you get soy milk can be calcium fortified. And those people who like tofu, tofu is another item that calcium fortified.
Let's talk about soy real quick. So,
Mhm.
we have a registered dietitian who specializes in oncology nutrition that, is helping us learn a lot about the foods that you're talking about. And so there's a tad bit of controversy
Diversity
around soy
in relationship to cancer.
in relationship to cancer, but we're talking to and for cancer patients, as it relates to bone health. Yes, in general, that's one thing, but when we get specific to not just cancer patients, but breast cancer patients.
And so the question is everything in moderation,
There we go.
or if all you can ingest is soy? So I
Uh-huh.
can't. Um, I'm more of an in moderation
So is she.
person.
So is
Uh,
she.
yeah, but what I do believe is that when it comes to cancers are not very efficient when it comes to breaking down foodstuffs. So if you have sugar is easy to break down.
Mm-hmm.
Simple carbohydrates like bread are easy to break down. But when you get into these more complicated foodstuffs, like your green vegetables, your proteins like in your salmon, those things are to generate energy takes a lot. So if we're talking about the breast cancer patient, your the nutritionist is going to be really important um, to deliver a message on what we're talking about now. What is healthy nutrition for the general population? So when I'm talking about Black women and bone health, I'm saying all Black women. Then you
Right.
got Black women with cancer. Then you got
Right.
Black women who are on dialysis.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So from this standpoint, everybody's watching. You got to watch. Keep a healthy bones, because if
Right.
you fracture your bones,
Mm-hmm.
your quality of life changes. Now you're laid up, and then your chances of another medical problem coming up,
Mm-hmm.
is increased.
So now let me ask you this question. Are Black women commonly, you told us that Black women do, get osteoporosis, but are we commonly diagnosed?
Oh, no, 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 no. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Did any of your clinicians talk to you when you were, your general practitioner, talk to you about bone health?
Well, not my general practitioner.
Ah, now you moved into this academic setting where you have all these people who are looking out for your best interests. Now, they may talk about bone health, but what about the average Black woman who's getting a physical once a year? And
Yeah.
maybe not, because she may not even have enough time because she's working so hard to keep everything going.
So
So who talks to her? Have you seen a commercial? Have you seen a commercial talking about osteoporosis with a Black woman on it?
I haven't, but don't give me ideas, because who will make it happen is Carrie's touch.
Well, I mean, but you might have to do it. I mean, because the
That's simple.
media, the media delivers the message,
Yeah.
because the message is like, well, Black women don't get osteoporosis. Why are we worried about it?
Mm-hmm.
Until somebody turns the light on in the room and says, yeah, Black women can get osteoporosis. It may not be at the same rate as Caucasian women or women who have a lighter or have thinner bones. The mass of their bones is less, but Black women can. And it's an issue that their clinicians should talk to them about. And if their clinicians don't talk to them about, they heard it here. They heard it on your show.
So, Dr. Keith, that's a perfect segue into my DEXA scan. First of all, what is a DEXA scan?
Let's keep it simple. It's just a bone mineral density scan. That's where we want to look at it. So
Okay.
the thickness of your bones. So I have a picture. So this is a good slide to talk about.
Okay.
So you notice the left, this panel to your left. Notice how thick this representation of your bones are. Okay. Now that's kind of normal. Now, if you drop down, and it's different than what you think of. So you start at what they call a T-score, right, of 0. And when it's negative, that means your bones are thinning. So there are people that have higher T-scores, and I think you had a higher T-score when you were looking at your spine, but your hip scan was less. So in this case, your T-score, you're in the healthy range if your T-score is 0. Okay. And then as you move from 1 to 2 in this space, it's more thinning of the bone, which they call osteopenia. And then anything above that, you're talking about from that 2 minus 2.5 and on is the osteoporosis. So in your scan, in your hip, you had evidence of weaknesses in your bone because it was a negative,
Which hip?
I think it was your right hip.
Oh, yep. That explains the pain I have in my right hip.
So that's very important because that's your hip.
Right.
If you fracture your hip, you're not going to be doing too much for a while.
Right.
And just remember, and see, we want to take the mystique away from this. Okay, it measures your bones. You don't need to be afraid of it. It's a good test to check for osteoporosis. Okay. It's painless.
It is painless. I mean, not only is it painless, it's quick. It's painless. It was quick. It was easy. And, I actually was like, is that it? So Dr. Keith, you're saying that, so I have osteopenia.
Yeah.
What happened? I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Can osteoporosis be prevented? And with this osteopenia, tell me what osteopenia is and what can I do to help prevent going even further or having further weakening from my bones?
Well, from the standpoint of just the average woman,
okay,
to decrease your chances of these bone problems. Penia, which is weakening, and porosis is just thinning of the bone. We're talking about what nutrition. What are the 3 things you need to look at? I need to eat well, I need to have regular exercise, and I have to live healthy. And then the whole concept of mind, body, and spirit under that healthy living is so important.
Absolutely.
So you got to bring in the spiritual component too, because that spiritual component helps you deal with the stress, the daily stress.
Right. Right. And and I just want to hop in right there because, our experiences with a lot of the people that we serve, the women that we serve, spirituality looks different for everybody. So, you're not prescribing that spiritual component look a certain way. What you're saying is get your mental health intact, however you do that.
Yeah.
Right?
However you do it.
Right. Now, if I want to get country and be like my granddaddy, and I'd say, howsoever it's going to go down. And my boy Marshawn Lynch, I love me some Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch says, get your mentals, take care of your mentals. And especially, doctor, in this COVID space, right? You've said it best. We are in the home more than we've ever been, probably in some of our lifetimes.
Right.
Right. And I don't want to get political, but the depression that is happening around the world and in our nation because stores and businesses are closing and shutting down, and what seems like normal will never be again. because of the way that the world is changing. You know, me, myself, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. So I don't make any qualms about that, but I have no problem with my Muslim sister whom serves and worships Allah,
Well,
or, you know, my Indian sister, or, you know, my Hmong sister or brother, or whomever, however they connect to that higher power or that spiritual element in their lives. That's what you're saying. Make sure that we have something aligned that's going to help bring us hope
yeah,
at the end of this rope, right?
right.
You know, because as a 16-year breast cancer survivor, right, I wasn't given hope in my doctor's offices. You know, when I was diagnosed, my um, primary care physician, she laughed. She gave me the diagnosis and laughed and said, "I bet you weren't expecting to hear that kind of news today."
Wow.
You know, and my oncologist, and I thoroughly enjoy my oncologist. I support him. I believe him. I trust him. Um, but when I was sitting in his doctor's office, he said to me, "We don't know if you're going to be alive in 5 years." There's not a lot of hope out there being shared amongst Black women,
See,
especially
but
who
see,
are
but that's
diagnosed.
so. This is very important.
Right.
What
Yep.
I need Black women to understand with breast cancer, the technologies that are coming down the pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost start thinking like cancer can be almost like a chronic disease.
Right.
So you have to get the support from Carrie's touch, because Carrie's already been over the mountain through the woods.
Mm-hmm.
She's at the top of the hill giving you directions on how to get across the creek, go up over in this direction, take care of your bones, because
Yeah.
you're going to have a long journey, a 16-year journey.
Right.
You're not going to have a 2-month journey. And then that's why it's important for, even when we start talking about breast cancer and movement of the cancer to your bones,
Mm-hmm.
and the treatments that you may take that may decrease or weaken your bones.
Mm-hmm.
All of these, they're bone agents that
Right.
help protect your bones.
Right.
Now, there are some agents that have the ability to, so you have these cells in your bone. And let's say I'm just going to lose 2 of them. There's one, it's called it's a clast and a blast. So when you think of the 2, there's one that's a blast that builds up the bone, and there's another one that's a clast or osteoclast that cuts down the bone.
Okay.
And what happens is some therapies go in and directly kill the cell, and then there are other ones looks at interfering with the ability of the cell to interact directly with the bone. So it prevents the bone from being broken down. The reason why I'm more inclined for Black people to talk about Xgeva, denosumab, is because, one, Black folks have a lot of high blood pressure.
Right.
Okay. Then we got kidney problems. And so you want to stay away from those drugs that can have a negative impact on your kidney. And that's why I should just, suggest people, you talk with your doctor. And when you talk with your doctor, you got to let your doctor know, high blood pressure, I'm on a diuretic. And that may interfere. Being on that can stress my kidneys out and push me over into acute or just kidney injury. And so you want to stay away from drugs like zoledronic acid that have the ability to have negative impacts on the kidney. Even though small, it's still the chances that it can happen. So these are why it's important. First, you get the diagnosis. You got breast cancer. Now we need to remove that whole concept out of your head that it's like 2 months. I mean, you are a living example of what happens when mind, body, and spirit, clinical trial involvement. You're 16 years out.
Right.
16 years out.
I know.
So you must have got the cancer when you were like 13 or 14. I don't know. I don't know.
You know what? Let me not joke, because there are young people who are diagnosed. I appreciate the compliment, but I was 39 when I was first diagnosed with breast cancer. So it was still considered a young survivor, right? Mm-hmm. And when you talk about mind, body, soul, I was determined from diagnosis. Well, first of all, at diagnosis, I was 100% ignorant of what the diagnosis actually meant. And as I continued on the journey, I started to educate myself, like I said earlier. But Doctor, what some of the stuff that you're saying, you know, if I think back to my journey, I just wouldn't have known to ask these questions, even if I had the information. And let me tell you why. When you're diagnosed, you go into an entirely different language. It's a whole new world, literally. And trying to navigate all of that space to save your life, whether it's for 2 months or 16 years or 40 years, there's a lot of decisions to be made. And while, you know, I can feel the tension in my right hip now, then I didn't have it. Then my bones were strong and healthy because I did do a baseline DEXA scan 16 years ago. And what I was concerned about as a young Black single mom, I wanted to be alive for my children. And if an achy hip at 55 is my trade-off, I'm just talking real talk with you, doctor, because I want to help the people, but I'm saying 16 years ago, I didn't have that mindset.
What's different? What is present today that wasn't present 16 years ago?
First of all, knowledge. Second, the less, I now know that I can survive the disease.
I'm taking a step further.
I'm gonna get there. I know where you're going, but I'm telling you from my seat, I'm gonna get there. You know, what is present is, yes, I do have a hip, you know, some pain in my hip and some thinning of the bones in my right hip, but I also don't have breast. So I'm talking about, how do we help the people take this information that you're talking about that's valuable? People aren't going to know to ask for Xgeva. People aren't going to know to ask for these different types of trials because they don't know any of it. I didn't know.
What's different today that wasn't present 16 years ago?
What is it?
Carrie's touch.
Come on, Black man.
I said, well, the point is you didn't have a Carrie's touch.
I didn't.
You didn't have a knowledgeable Black woman who is a survivor of breast cancer.
Man, I'm about to give you an air hug. Oh, Doctor.
Wait a second. I must said knowledgeable not only about, let's take it, not only are you a 16-year survivor that established an organization that has been touching thousands of lives.
Right.
You are working with an academic institution to do research.
Yeah.
You have this webcast, and you're not only talking about inspiring Black women and all women.
Right.
That it's not going to be 2 months. Right. You got to stay positive.
Right. Come on, doctor.
You're going to get the diagnosis.
Come on, doctor.
Let's figure out what kind of therapy's out there for you.
Right.
And then this therapy is going to increase your lifespan. So that's why Carrie's touch was so important. It's a trusted resource.
Wow.
That you can go to. You want something funny? Oh, we got Friday night. But next thing you know, she's talking about healthcare and nutrition. Next week, we're talking about bone health. That did not exist 16 years ago.
Come on, doctor. You know, in the preacher world, we say, you talking heavy. And
that's why I said it's like you're at the top of the mountain giving people instructions. Don't go that direction. Go over here. Go over the creek. Over that bridge. Come up this way. Watch out for your nutrition. Get some regular exercise. Get your spirit back. Versus you had to figure it out yourself. That journey was by yourself. You may have had some ancillary help with your religious, your church, or your preacher, but the path, the journey was by yourself, because did you have a Black woman, a woman of color, a woman at all who was able to sit down with you and say, I got your back, let me show you how to take this journey?
Wow. So, I mean, you wrapped that up in a bow so beautifully, Dr. Keith. Now, let me do a couple of things. I want to thank the Prostate Health Education Network, PHEN, the men at PHEN who are really upsetting the apple cart, so to speak, in the world of prostate cancer and bone health. You know, I read your bio, and for those of us that didn't understand a word I said, basically what you're saying is you are out there creating treatments, right? Treatment protocols that are enhancing well-being for Black men with prostate cancer.
Knowledge is your best defense.
Yeah.
So our objective is making sure African-American men are aware, know about the prostate, know about prostate cancer, know about the treatments that are available, and know about clinical trials.
Yes.
So we partner with you to do what?
Right.
We can put together this foundation. Oh, the tide raises all boats. So we in the same tide.
Come on now.
So why wouldn't we not raise you guys up too?
We're ready. Listen, because of the work that we are doing with UCLA, with Project Source, speaking our African-American realities, the information that we have gathered thus far, while I can't talk about it in great detail, what I can talk about is the fact that UCLA has taken I won't say a back seat, but a step back to allow the community to drive this research. Why is that? You know, people talk about social determinants of health, and all of those components are critical to understanding just various communities and how cancer infiltrates the communities, right? But specifically the voice of the Black woman. And I have said this for the past 3 years as we have been leading this research project. If you make breast cancer and the experience better for Black women, you are going to make breast cancer and the experience better for all women.
Well, and that's true. And that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Working together.
You're not trying. You're not trying. You are doing it.
You're
doing it.
We're gonna. Here's the deal. Every day there's a life we touch.
Yeah.
And if we're not here, if Carrie's touch is not here, if some of the other African-American breast organizations aren't there, all those lives would not be touched.
Right. Yeah.
Just think about it. 16 years ago, who touched your life? And from that point on, 16 years, how many lives have you touched? That's why it's very important. Now we're coming up. Next month, September, is going to be what? Prostate cancer awareness. The month after that's going to be breast cancer awareness.
Right.
But I want everybody to recognize that, one, PHEN, we're going to be holding the 16th annual. Now that's interesting. Ooh, 16? 16. I didn't even get that. 16. Okay.
Yes.
This is our 16th annual African-American prostate cancer disparity. So let me tell you about the founder, Thomas Farrington, 20-year survivor, 20 years.
Wow. Bravo.
So let me give you some 2020 vision. Now, you talking about a brother that had some vision.
Yes.
20 years. Yeah. 20-year survivor.
Yeah.
And so, and this is the 16. We're not talking about a simple conference where it's in a small city. He was on Capitol Hill is where he started,
Right.
Washington, D.C.
Yeah,
In relationship with the Congressional Black Caucus.
That's right. That's right.
And so he's been fighting the fight.
Yeah.
And so the time is now.
Yes.
For all the boats to rise.
Come on.
So now I just want to bring that out because that's important.
That
and then we said,
yeah.
Are we going to wait for someone to give us a hand, or are we just going to have to do it ourselves?
We have to do it ourselves.
Right.
We have to do it ourselves.
And
so congratulations to PHEN for being 20 years old. I mean,
no.
No. Tom is a 20-year survivor. PHEN is 16. We're the same age.
Right. The summit is 16. This is the 16th annual summit.
Oh, see, I'm messing it all up.
That's all right. So PHEN is 17.
Right. So Tom kind of did like I did. Carrie, I'm a 16-year survivor, and Carrie's touch is 14. Mm-hmm. So I took care of myself first. Before I took care of anybody else.
Right.
And so anyway, I don't want to start talking about my journey again, but what I do want to say is thank you to PHEN. Thank you for your sponsorship. Thank you for your partnership.
Mm-hmm. Well, we need to thank you because it's always been a dream to come together. Because here's the deal. A Black man with prostate cancer, his caregiver is a Black woman. And at one time, that prostate cancer survivor may become the caregiver for the Black woman.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so what we're leaving the audience or the people in attendance tonight is this. Knowledge is your best defense.
Yeah.
And you have to rely on your trusted resources.
Yeah.
Because they know they can get in contact with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got a question? They know you're there. They're not on this journey alone.
Right.
Because they have Carrie's touch.
Hey, they have Carrie's touch. Carrie's touch has amazing organizations like PHEN, Carrie's touch. We have God, Spirit, Universe holding us up, right?
That's right.
I am grateful for our time together tonight, Dr. Keith.
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy that I've had this opportunity to speak to you. We had a great time, and I hope the audience walked away with a better understanding about how important their bones are.
Well, listen, so this is not a dead dog, just like our bones aren't dead or dry. This is not a dead document, this information doesn't end when we hit end. This information is going to live on our website. It's going to live in, on various social media outlets. We're going to share it with you. And coming up on September 30th, Carrie's Touch is actually joining PHEN during their 16th
That's right.
Annual summit, Prostate Health Cancer Summit, because what we want to do is make sure that we are focusing on the family. Just like you just said, Dr. Keith, at one time that Black woman took care of that Black man. Who knows? There may come a time where that Black man has to take care of that Black woman. And, however families are created, because our reality is that all families aren't, a Black man taking care of a Black woman. Sometimes it's a Black man taking care of a Black man, or a Black woman taking care of a Black woman. We want everybody to understand that there is room for you. There is room for your family in this conversation. We're not
normal because it's caregivers.
Yeah.
And loved ones.
That caregiver. That's right. That's right. So, Dr. Keith, I am going to give you the last word. What, if nothing else, that you said tonight, what is the one thing that you want to leave the people with?
Trust in Carrie's touch. That's a trusted resource.
Wow.
Ladies, do not lose faith, because I'm letting you know. You heard what I said, letting you know.
Come on, country boy.
That there's technologies that are coming down the pipeline that have the ability to treat cancer based upon your genetic makeup.
Yeah.
So we need you to stay positive. We need you to stay healthy, because if you stay healthy, if your bones stay healthy, then you have excellent quality of life.
Yeah.
Because the scientists and the clinicians that are out there, they're doing their best. And even the pharmaceutical companies, and don't want to forget them, because they're doing their very best at turning out these therapies. All we need you to do is stay healthy and stay positive. A case in point, Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter was diagnosed 2014. We're talking about 6 years. He's going to be celebrating his anniversary, and the treatment that they had for him. He was the president of the United States. He participated in a clinical trial, but that doesn't mean you can't participate in the clinical trial. So that point is, you got to stay positive, because I use him as an example. I think it's like 95.
Yeah.
And the cancer didn't stop him. He was in a clinical trial. And with these new technologies that understand the weakness of the cancer, and they exploit that weakness to stop or slow the cancer spread. So I want to get people of that mindset of, you have cancer, then I only have a few months to live. No. You got to stay healthy. You got to stay positive. You got your trusted resource that can help you guide yourself, that will guide you on this journey. Let Carrie's touch guide you on the journey. You're not alone.
Now that's a perfect ending.
Thank you.
Dr. Keith, thank you so very much. Thank you for staying up late. I know it's now 10 p.m. in Boston.
Wait a second. It's not 10 p.m., but look how light it is outside.
Oh, did I give away your
Well, I'm in California.
Okay. I'm sorry. Well, your body is used to being up at that is on the 10 p.m. Thank you so much for educating us. Thank you so much
for
your love and your support. Will you come back?
Yeah, because we got to talk about clinical trials.
Yes.
And we got to talk about genetic testing.
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. There it is. You heard it here, that Dr. Keith will come back and have another conversation on Real Talk with Reverend Tammie. As you can see, it's not scripted. We talk, but we both are passionate and compassionate about educating the Black community that both prostate and breast cancer survivors can and do survive, and make sure that your bones are healthy. Have a good Friday night, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.